Das ist die Lifehacks Show.
Welcome zur Lifehacks Show. Lifehacks gibt dir selbst erprobte Hacks und Tipps für dein bestes Ich. Und hier ist ein Crash-Test-Dummy für ein besseres Leben. Markus Meurer.
Die DNX Digitale Nomadenkonferenz ist das geilste Event ever. Komm auf die DNX im Mai in Berlin und triff hunderte von gleichgesinnten Menschen, die ihr Online-Business starten möchten, um genauso wie ich von überall auf der Welt zu arbeiten. Geh jetzt auf www.dnx-berlin.de, gib beim Checkout-Prozess den Code PODCAST ein und du bekommst 20 € Discount auf jedes DNX-Ticket. Yo Leute, was geht? Ich bin Markus Meurer und das ist die Lifehacks Show. Ich habe mich dazu entschieden, hier auf dem DNX Podcast richtig krass exklusiven Content rauszuhauen. Und zwar gibt es die Talks von den internationalen englischsprachigen DNX Global Events hier auf dem Podcast. Die Events haben bis jetzt in Berlin und in Bangkok stattgefunden und dieses Jahr findet die DNX Global mit Speakern wie Pat Flynn, Jodie Attenberg, Car Sundance oder Natalie Sisson in Lissabon im September statt. Und wenn du jetzt richtig Bock bekommen hast, auch mal das DNX Feeling live mitzubekommen, dann komm zur nächsten DNX in Berlin dieses Jahr im Mai. Und das ganze Speaker-Programm und was sonst noch alles abgeht mit den Pre-Events, Workshops, Masterminds, einer fetten Party, das findest du alles unter www.dnx-berlin.de und natürlich auch das Speaker-Programm mit den krassesten Persönlichkeiten aus der deutschen Szene. Und wenn du dann ready bist, das Ticket zu holen, dann gib den Code LIFEHACKS ein, alles zusammengeschrieben und mit Z am Ende und du bekommst nochmal 20 € off von mir. Alright, that's it. Viel Spaß beim Hören und peace and out.
Just get a quick round of applause for Felicia and Marcus for putting this together. Like, I've done a lot of conferences, and this is extremely well organized. I'm very impressed. So, yeah, Germans may not be great entertainers, but they are great organizers. And so here we are. So, how many people here, just by show of hands, how many people here have no clue who I am, never heard of my name? Oh, God. All right, pressure. All right, so just a little bit about myself. I started my first internet business in 2007. I had a variety of businesses, and eventually, I'm feeding back. And eventually, I kind of turned my career into a professional blogger and author. So I am a full-time writer, and I write about various self-development topics. I've been a digital nomad for 6 years now. And basically, my whole shtick is to talk about kind of help people become open about their failures, their insecurities, their vulnerabilities, because I think this is extremely important and extremely beneficial for people. So I'm going to be... Hello? Okay. I'm going to be road testing my own ideas by sharing with you the travel slideshow from hell. We all get to hear about how amazing travel is and how awesome all these places we get to go are. So I figured I would spice things up and show some of the worst parts of the digital nomad lifestyle. So, of course, we start in India. I visited India in 2011. I went to New Delhi. I arrived and checked into a hostel. And like most hostels in the world, I soon found myself drinking beer with a bunch of English guys. And probably 6 hours, I'd been in India for maybe 6 hours, and this English guy looks at me and he says, "So you got sick yet?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "How long you been here?" I said, 6 hours. He's like, 48 hours, mate, 48 hours. I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "It's going to be bad. Don't worry, it happens to everybody. But it's going to be, make sure you've got a nice toilet. It's going to be really bad." I said, I don't know, man. I've been traveling for a long time. I spend a lot of time in third world countries. I just came from Cambodia and Thailand. Like, I might be okay. And he said, 48 hours, mate. 48 hours. So actually, 48 hours went by, and I was fine. And then on the third day, I went to a beautiful place called Bodh Gaya, which is up in the northeastern corner of India. It's actually supposedly where the Buddha achieved enlightenment. There's a big Bodhi tree here and a bunch of beautiful temples. The catch is that it's basically in the middle of nowhere in rural India. So it's literally just a few temples, one road, and like 2 or 3 tiny little hotels. And so I'm walking around snapping pictures of this beautiful temple, and it hits. So I race back to my hotel. I get a tuk-tuk. I race back to my hotel. I run into my hotel room, run into the bathroom, and I see this. Now, everybody here who has been to India is not surprised. So I do my business, feel like I'm gonna die, stumble into my room, I've got cold sweats, I've got a fever, I just fall over into my bed and pass out. I wake up about 3 or 4 hours later, look up at the ceiling, and I see this. Now, it's a really crappy picture, but it's basically hundreds and thousands of bugs, those little spiders with long legs crawling around on the ceiling, crawling around on the walls. They start dropping on the bed. And of course, I'm freaking out. So I get up, I stumble out into the lobby. There's nobody in the lobby. It's after 7 p.m. Everybody went home. So I'm basically stuck in this Indian hotel. I have a horrible stomach flu. I have no water. You can't drink the water in India. I have a bathroom that looks like an atomic bomb dropped on it. And I've got thousands of bugs flying around and falling onto my bed. This is a really vulnerable moment in my life, to say the least. And I actually have a video of it. Let's see.
God, what is this? Andy, what is this? I can't see a thing! All right! Oh, I broke a nail.
So that was my trip to India. Not many people know this. I used to be a small Asian boy. But basically, I mean, this is the point in the talk where I have some deep lesson to share with you all and tell you how it's all great. There's no lesson. It's not great. It was fucking horrible. And sometimes travel is horrible. But you know what the really weird thing is? I still want to go back to India. I have no idea why. So moving on, the second worst moment in my travel life happened in Vietnam. Jimmy, are you here? Jimmy's here. There he is. So when we were in Vietnam, a bunch of people told my girlfriend and I to visit this little island it's called Phu Quoc. Everybody said, it's spotless, it's untouched, it's this beautiful tropical paradise. It's undiscovered, like there's not resorts that are tainting it with everything. And, that sounds really great when somebody's saying that, but then you show up and you realize that, wait a second, there's not actually anything here. And not only did the beach look like this, but we showed up and the woman at the hotel said, you can't swim, there's jellyfish. It's jellyfish season, so, just stand on the beach and look. So of course, being go-getters, my girlfriend and I were like, you know what, we're not going to settle for this. There's like 20 different beaches on the island. So we're going to rent a motorbike and we're going to drive around. We're going to find something else. So we go get this crappy $20 motorbike, start driving around. And the other thing that people don't tell you is that this island looks small, but it's like 4 fucking hours to get to the top of it. Like it just goes on forever. The other thing they don't tell you is that the roads all look like this. And so I don't know how many of you have actually ridden really cheap motorbikes in Southeast Asia, but this happens. So I go flying over the handlebars. My girlfriend goes flying over me. My whole arm is just cut up and destroyed. Her jaw is like sideways. We thought she broke it at first. Finally, we were able to like hitchhike our way to a hospital. Hospital looks like this. We run around looking for a doctor. My arm's bleeding everywhere. We find a doctor. She's like, oh, you need to clean your cuts. The sink looks like this. At this point, I'm just going to fast forward. Yeah, that's my arm. They loaded us up. So, you know, the silver lining here is they gave us a bunch of free painkillers. So we spent 5 days in hotels on painkillers. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward through the time I got poisoned in Ecuador and the time I spent 4 hours stuck in a Brazilian mall, and I ended up spending $200 on a cell phone that didn't even work. And at this point, you're probably wondering, why the hell is he telling us this? What's the point of all this? Why am I getting up and sharing these stories? Does anyone want to guess what the point is? Anybody? You can just call it out. What was that? Not all sunshine and daisies, that's part of it. I was going more for, fuck it, stay home. Thank you. I'm just kidding. Seriously, I can't stop. These things keep happening to me, and I wonder, I'm like, why do I do this? Why do I keep doing this? My parents, my family, my friends, they see pictures of me on Facebook with like cuts. I still have scars on my arm, and they're like, why do you do this? And that's a great question. And I think it kind of gets at the core of why we do the things we do. A big theme in my work and on my website is that basically happiness is earned through struggle. So it's easy for us to sit here and talk about all the great things we want. You know, we all want a big business that's making tons of money. We all want to go visit all these amazing places. We want the location independence, and we want the freedom that comes with it. But the thing is the way that we achieve those things is that they are the struggles that we can live with. I have plenty of people in my life who, when I tell them about my India story, they look at me and they're like, I am never traveling again. And when I hear a story from other people like my India story, I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. Like, I'm gonna go try that out. And that's why I've ended up in this life that I've ended up in. And what we end up getting good at, what we end up excelling at, the choices that stay with us are the ones that we are able, not only able, but like willing and even enthusiastic about the problems and sacrifices that come along with it. So just to give you some practical examples, people who get into amazing physical shape are the people who actually enjoy enduring the pain of running a marathon or going to the gym 5 days a week. All of us in here probably wish we were in better shape, but the people who actually get in amazing shape are the ones who enjoy doing it. People who build successful corporate careers are people who excel in political environments or large bureaucracies. One of my best friends, he was a roommate of mine in college. He told me flat out, he said he works for big Fortune 500 companies and he's way up on the career ladder. And he told me, he's like, I love it, man. I'm really good at it. And that's great, because I hated it, and I was horrible at it. People who are successful in their relationships are the ones who are able to cope with conflict and loss. One thing I always like to tell people is that your relationship is only as strong as it is in its worst moment. It's easy, you know, when everything's happy, everybody's relationship's great, but, you know, it's when shit hits the fan that you find out what it's actually made of. People who are able to build successful businesses are comfortable with uncertainty and failure. That's kind of obvious. And then people who travel to cool places and do amazing things are comfortable with the risks, potential disasters, and setbacks. And that's something that obviously everybody here should be pretty familiar with, and I think at least thinking about on a regular basis. What are you willing to put up with? What are the setbacks you're willing to tolerate? And I actually do want to take a minute and talk about the setbacks of the digital nomad lifestyle. Because to be honest, it's kind of as rah-rah, like let's go, great attitude as a lot of us are in these events like these and, on websites and stuff like that. Like there are costs that we all have to sustain if we're going to live like this. So strained relationships, this has already come up in a few talks today. It's hard to maintain close intimacy with friends and family when they're 5,000 miles away. When you only get to see your best friend once a year, like that has repercussions. And there's some people who just don't want to deal with that. Or even, in my own relationship with my girlfriend, when we started traveling together, like it changes things. The whole dynamic changes, and you have to be willing and able to adapt to those changes. There's no sense of stability or feeling of home. A lot of people miss this. Some people, what I've noticed is that this hits people usually around the second or third year. And some people can handle it, and then other people, they're like, screw this, I need a home. And they pack everything up and go back, which is fine. Financial insecurity, as awesome as the internet is and all these new technologies, sadly, we're all kind of at the mercy of Google or Facebook. Facebook could do something tomorrow that would wipe out half of my business in the next year. And that's just a fact of being in these types of businesses. Obviously, language and cultural barriers. It's funny, when my girlfriend and I went to the hospital in Vietnam, I didn't realize this. I'd been living in Vietnam for about 3 months, and I didn't find this out until we went to the hospital. But Vietnamese deal with awkward situations by laughing. And so we walk into this room. I've got like blood all over this side of my body. My girlfriend's like jaws like sideways. And all these Vietnamese people look at us and like, It felt great. But it's just a cultural difference. They didn't mean anything by it. And then, of course, personal safety, health concerns. Derek joked that he's still not insured. I'm still not insured. And I think I'm actually getting to a point in my life where I'm a little worried about that. I believe that life is essentially about solving problems. I don't think problems ever go away. It's really, life is just about choosing good problems to have, problems that you can live with. And in my experience, being a digital nomad, it solves some problems in your life very well, and it solves other ones very poorly. And so, for instance, if you hate dealing with large organizations and you're kind of a loner and you like to do things on your own and you like this freedom and independence, then obviously being a digital nomad it's a great option. If you feel like nobody understands you and you feel out of place and everybody's an asshole and it's all their fault, then it's probably not going to solve your problems. In fact, it might even make them worse. If you get bored easily, are endlessly curious, my girlfriend and I, we actually drive ourselves crazy because we pretty much every single day that goes by, we decide 3 more places we want to go. And then there's places that we already went last year and we already want to go back. And it's just like, it's endless. It's actually, it's a good problem for us, but a lot of people don't have that problem. If you feel like you need to prove something, if you need to be cool or special or impress somebody in some way, again, being a digital nomad is not going to solve this problem. In fact, in many ways, it could just make it worse. So I kind of throw a couple questions for you guys to think about today and think about in your own life, which is, what problem are you trying to solve? And this is a question that gets thrown out a lot in terms of business. So people will say like, what problem is your business trying to solve? That's who you should market to and all that stuff. My question is more, what problem are you trying to solve within yourself? Because none of us just randomly show up here. None of us are just kind of like, oh, well, this sounds nice. I'll go to Cambodia. Like this is very thought out. It's very intentional. And every single person in this room had a very strong emotional reaction to these ideas in this lifestyle when we discovered it. And so it's very important to ask yourself, why are you so motivated to do it? What problem are you trying to solve? And I would argue that there are good problems that you're trying to solve and there are bad ones. The other question to think about that also doesn't get asked is, what problems can you live with? Can you live with motorbike crashes? Can you live with getting dengue or malaria? Can you live with being stranded in rural India with no water, being sick? A lot of people can't, a lot of people can, but these are important things to ask yourself. Again, living a good life is, in my opinion, my personal philosophy, is about choosing good problems. This is a problem I chose. I had no desk, so I worked on a hammock in front of the moon. It was very romantic. The last thing I want to talk about is, again, something that it took me 3 or 4 years to start to realize, is that this is a very extreme lifestyle. This is a lifestyle that is constantly bombarding you with new experiences and new perspectives. And this can be very powerful. But what I've discovered is that it can be very powerful in both a positive and a negative way. It can be an engine of incredible personal growth. It can make you a better person and more confident in many ways. But I've also watched a number of people arguably get worse because of it. When you're constantly being bombarded with all these new things in your life, it's very easy to get diverted onto a path that maybe you can't turn back from, or get caught up in all sorts of distractions and unhealthy habits that are really not good for you. And just to use an example from my own life, and to finally give you a positive story, since I'm being a negative Nancy up here. Back in my early 20s, I was kind of what I described in the earlier slide. I was a loner, and looking back, I realized that I was just bad at relationships. It wasn't that I didn't like people. It was just I wasn't very good at intimacy or having any sort of significant connection with people. And part of that's just because of the upbringing I had. But part of that is just, I grew up in a culture and a system and around people that never really promoted that. And so my life up into my early 20s I had a lot of kind of superficial, casual friendships and relationships. And I never really took a whole lot of, I never took it very seriously. I took a lot of it for granted. And so this actually made becoming a digital nomad very easy for me. There was never any sort of doubt. I meet people all the time in my life who say, I would love to do what you do, but I couldn't leave my friends and my family. I love seeing them too much. That was something that never crossed my mind. I was like, friends, family, fuck it, let's go to Thailand. And what began to happen after a couple years is when those people in my life became scarce, when I only got to see, my mother once a year, and I only got to see my best friend for 2 days, I kind of was put in this position where I'm like, wow, I really, I can't take these people for granted. I need to get the most out of these 2 days that I can. And ironically, that actually taught me how to kind of open up and connect with these people in my life that I never knew how to before. In a strange way, being a digital nomad forced me to be a better friend, a better partner, a better family member. But the thing is that it could have easily gone the other way. And there were times where it did go the other way, because the lifestyle presented me so many distractions, so many superficial benefits. There's always a new party. There's always a new beach. There's always a new country. There's always a new girl. There's always new friends to make. There's always another hostel. And that can become a pretty destructive force if you let it. And I've seen it become a destructive force in some people's lives. And so not only did I become a better person, yay, but I actually convinced my parents to come to Brazil, which never happened, would never happen 5 years ago. And so I guess this is just an example of how eventually, through a lot of struggles and a lot of dealing with my own problems, the forces of this lifestyle helped make me a better person. And so I leave with you all on your own journeys, wherever it takes you geographically, you will be bombarded with various struggles and problems and experiences. And I hope that you leverage these experiences in a way that makes you grow and become a better person, and don't get caught up in all of the riffraff and the hype. So, thank you.
Yeah, yes, yo, thanks für deinen Support und wenn du noch mehr mit mir connecten möchtest, here we go. Erstens, komm in die kostenlose DNX Community auf Facebook unter www.dnxcommunity.de. Ich bin jeden Tag am Start und helfe, wo ich kann. Zweitens, triff dich mit mir auf dem geilsten Event ever, der DNX Digitale Nomadenkonferenz im Mai in Berlin. Gehe dafür jetzt auf www.dnx-berlin.de und mit dem Code PODCAST schenke ich dir 20 € auf jedes Ticket. Drittens, folge mir um die Welt und trag dich auf www.dnx-berlin.de/news in den kostenlosen Newsletter ein. Viertens, folge mir auf Facebook, Instagram und Twitter unter Markus Meurer. Fünftens, gehe jetzt auf www.lhsupporter.de und werde Lifehacks-Supporter ab $3. Sechstens, gehe auf www.podcastbewertung.de und hinterlasse mir eine kurze Bewertung. Am iPhone unten rechts auf die Lupe tippen, nach Markus Meurer suchen, Podcast antippen und auf Bewertung schreiben gehen. Yo, that's it. Peace and out.